Today we're going to look at dividing fractions. Now, if you know how to multiply fractions, you know how to divide fractions. Matter of fact, to help us, we're going to memorize a poem. Dividing fractions is sweet as pie. Take the second fraction and flip it and use your multiplication rules to multiply. So let's look at the first fraction division problem. Now, I'm going to work this one for you. After that, I want you to try the rest, and then we'll go over them. So we have 1/2 divided by 3/4. Well, I mentioned that if you know how to multiply fractions, you could divide fractions. Well, let's just review how you multiply fractions. If I would change my problem to 1/2 times 3/4, what we learned in the past, when you multiply fractions, you just multiply straight across. 1 times 3 and 2 times 4. So when you multiply fractions, you just go straight across. Numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator, top number times top number, bottom number times bottom number. So 1 times 3 is 3, and 2 times 4 is 8, and you're done. But this is a division problem, so there's just one extra step that you have to do. So we're going to look at this. We have 1/2 divided by 3/4, and we're going to change that problem. We're going to use the poem. Dividing fractions is sweet as pie. Take the second fraction and flip it, and use your multiplication rules. So I'm going to change that divide sign to a multiplication sign and multiply. Now it's a simple problem. We just multiply straight across. So we'll do that again. Multiply straight across. And what's 1 times 4? Of course it's 4. What's 2 times 3? 2 times 3 is 6, right? So we got that. So this gives us 4/6. Now, are we going to leave it as 4/6, or do we want to simplify? We should always simplify a fraction if we can. And for simplification, just divide the top number, the numerator, and the bottom number, the denominator of a fraction, by the same number. I know that I could divide 4 by 2, and I know I could divide 6 by 2, so I'm going to do that. So we divide by 2 on top, divide by 2 on bottom, and that gives us 2/3. So we're going to put that 2/3. Now, that's our fraction, but we also find that we want to come up with our decimal, and we also want to come up with our percent. So let's look at that. How do you change a fraction to a decimal? You just divide the numerator by the denominator, or in other words, you divide the top number of the fraction by the bottom number. Now, if you get confused, in your mind, take that fraction and push it over. The 2 lands here and the 3 lands here, so you know that the 2 goes on the inside and the 3 goes on the outside. So let's do our division problem. How many times does 3 go into 2? We know that 3 is larger than 2, so we put our 0. It doesn't go into 2. So we put our decimal, and we add our 0. How many times 3 go into 20? 6. So that gives us 18. We do our subtraction, add the 0, bring it back down. All of a sudden we got 20 again, so we got 6. And all of a sudden we find that it just keeps going. We could do this forever. And 6 And so we're just going to have 0.6666 as a decimal, and we put a line over it to say that it continues forever. Now, to help with the percent, let's just round this to the hundredths position. So we'll say we have 0.6666, and it just keeps on going. Well, the hundredths position is right here. So to round, we always look at the number that follows it. So the number that follows that is a 6, and we know 5 or more raise the score, 4 or less let it rest. So what we end up with is 0.67. And we're done. Decimal rounded to 100 is 0.67. And I'm going to go ahead and leave that right there. And now let's change it to percent. To change a decimal to a percent, all you have to do is multiply by 100. Now, when you multiply a decimal by 100, that is the same as taking a decimal and moving it to the right 2 times. So to go from a decimal to a percent is easy. Just take the decimal, move it to the right 2 times. And what we have is 67%. Now, let's go ahead and write that in. So 0.67 times 100, I move the decimal to the right 2 times. And what that gave me was 67%. Now, what I want you to do is to work the rest of these problems on your own. I'll do this one, this one, this one, and this one. Now, just as a caution, your percent does not need to be 100% or something less than 100%. When you do these problems, you might find that your percent is greater than 100%. You get something like 400% on these problems. So let's go ahead and do this. I want you to experiment, I want you to work these problems, and then we'll go over them. You go ahead and begin.